الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأنذر عشيرتك الأقربين. The first of our salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. The third, with your loudest voices, in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. If I can request the brothers just to come a bit closer to the front, especially those near the door. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The event of Da'wat al-Ashira, or the event of the invitation of the nearest kin, is without a doubt one of the most fundamental events in the life of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And indeed, one of the most important events in the history of the religion of Islam. Indeed, this event is an event which has been narrated not only in the world of hadith, but also within the Holy Quran. With the famous ayah in the Holy Quran, ayah 214 of Surah 26, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, and warn your nearest of kin. You find that here, this incident is one that has been examined within both Sunni and Shia literature, and an incident that requires a thorough dissection, for the incident is one that has historical, theological, as well as ethical repercussions that need to be understood. Unfortunately, the incident of Da'wat al-Ashira has not been examined with the depth that it deserves. This incident is one of the earliest incidents in the religion of Islam and marks the open proclamation of the message of the religion of Islam. As we know, for the first few years, the religion of Islam was a religion which the Prophet spread quietly. There were only a few who had joined the religion in its first few years. The beginning of the open proclamation in the religion to the people of Mecca was marked by Da'wat al-Ashira. And indeed, in this particular incident, you have one of the unanimous proofs for the imamate of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Because many times people ask, what are the proofs of the imamate of Amir al-Mu'mineen? Then many times you find people asking, what are the incidents that highlight the proof that he was an imam, that he was announced to the people, that the Prophet had already told his nation about him being his successor? You find many times people turning around and saying, is Ghadir the only time that the Holy Prophet told the people about the imam being his successor? Or are there other occasions in which the Holy Prophet made it clear to the people? As in, if today someone was to ask you, prove to me the imamate of Ali ibn Abi Talib from the Quran and from the Hadith. Many times our sole proof will be what? Our sole proof will be the incident of Ghadir. If you were to ask, can you show other incidents where the Prophet clearly says that this person is my brother, he is my wasi, he is my khalifa, he is my wazir? You'll find that many people do not refer to the event of Da'wat al-Ashira. To many people, the event of Da'wat al-Ashira was an event where a dinner was cooked, people came, they ate and they left. The reality of the event of Da'wat al-Ashira is that there was a continuation in highlighting the position of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Firstly, that Ali was born in the Kaaba. Secondly, that Ali follows the Prophet to the mountain of Hira all the time. Thirdly, that the Prophet brings him up. Fourthly, that the Prophet is now showing that from a young age, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already decided that after I die, there is only one person who can look after this message. None of us in our lives in the world today will ever leave our companies without announcing who our successor is. If I'm going on a weekend holiday, I'll announce to the staff who the successor is. If I'm going for 4 weeks away, I'll announce to the staff who the successor is. If I'm going to another country, I'll announce to the staff who the successor is. If you leave the company without announcing, people will turn around and say, this is absurd. Everyone will claim they should be the manager. The secretary will claim. The caretaker will claim. The head of accounts will claim. The head of the section, the head of the department will claim. Therefore, you found that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted from early in the religion of Islam, from the very open proclamation, to make clear, first to Bani Hashim, then to the unanimous public, because someone says, if he made clear in Da'wat al-Ashira, what would the need be of something like Ghadir later on? No, you find Ghadir was unanimous for the public, whereas with Da'wat al-Ashira was an incident to highlight the beginning to the family. And indeed you find Da'wat al-Ashira as an incident had unbelievable repercussions on Islam, on Muslims, and on Arabian society. In which way? Because such an event meant that everybody realized this man is serious about his mission. This young man, who was an orphan we saw grow up, is now serious in what he wants to do. For some, it was a guiding light in their lives. For others, no. For others, it shook the status quo. It meant that the lines and the boundaries that they had created were now distorted, were now changed. The aristocrats who used to rule felt their chair was now shaky. Therefore, you find that this incident is one that has to be examined, not just for its details, but also to see the significance of what this incident done to early Islam. And I'd like to examine this in the following stages. Number one, were there any rumors in the first years before Da'wat al-Ashira that the Prophet had started spreading a concept of Islam? If there was, why didn't they attack him early on? Number two, how many people did he invite to Da'wat al-Ashira? And who were the notable figures within that invitation? Number three, how does one edition of a book from our brothers in other schools in Islam change in its second edition to delete Ali's name in Da'wat al-Ashira? Number four, when Da'wat al-Ashira occurred, what was Abu Lahab and his wife's reaction to Da'wat al-Ashira? And what was the reaction of people who had never heard of the religion of Islam? Number five, how did Abu Jahl and Umar ibn al-Khattab decide to torture anyone who joined the religion of Islam? And what were the methods of torture that they employed to make sure that Islam was destroyed? Number six, how did Da'wat al-Ashira lead to a new Islam in Africa? And which household looked after that new Islam? Number seven, how did it eventually lead to sanctions? And what was the role of Ali in the middle of these sanctions? Let's examine this in order that we understand the greatness of this incident. When the Prophet announced Islam, he was at the age of 40. When he announced his prophethood, as we said, there were only a few who joined the religion. Indeed, in my estimate, in his time in Mecca, over 13 years, I believe 170 people joined Islam in the first 13 years. Someone might turn around and say, hold on a minute. At Ghadir, there was 100,000. You're saying in the first 13 years, there was 170. Yes. In Medina, the people wanted him to come. The people were ready for the message. In Mecca, the people all had their set lives. They didn't want anyone to change the status quo. So the Holy Prophet at the beginning, Khadija joined him, the Imam joined him. You find, for example, a couple of other members, Arqam, the son of Arqam, joined him. You find, for example, Abdullah bin Mas'ud may have joined him. Zayd may have joined him. There was only a few of them. Are you telling me, some ask, that the Meccans didn't know there was an early Islam when it was spreading quietly? No, they knew. Abu Sufyan heard. Abu Lahab heard. Abu Jahl heard. Utbah bin Rabi'ah heard, no doubt. But they never thought that it would have as big an effect as it would do later on. At the beginning, many of them were saying, Muhammad is trying to tell the people about some belief where there's a day of judgment and the people are all equal. Let him continue in his message. And even in the beginning of the message was extremely focused on moral aspects of society. Not necessarily so much attacking the idols of Quraysh. You see, the idols such as Hubal and Al-Lat and Al-Uzza, they were in a dominant position. At the beginning of the religion, the beginning was what? Iqra, read in the name of your Lord, for example. Or the beginning spoke of, for example, the pen in Surah Al-Qalam. Or for example, Surah Al-Muzzammil Al-Muddathir. Or Surah Al-Fatiha, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So you found that at the beginning, there wasn't too much of a worry. He's only got a handful. And who are the handful? The handful are a group of poor people. There's no one really wealthy for us to worry about. Mus'ab bin Umar and the likes came later on. Therefore you found in the first 3 years, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had wanted him just to be very limited in terms of the propaganda, in terms of the propagation at the beginning. Then what had happened? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after the first 3 years of Islam, decided that I want this now message to be spread openly. Where do you begin with any tabligh? Begin in the household, not in the community. This is the fine point. Why? There are many, when they come to the Muslim community, this community is this community has this community has this. Habibi, have you seen your house or no? Before you tell the world about coming to Islam, first go and look in your own house, then come and teach us about Islam. Correct or no? There are many who have great things to say about the community being backward. You look at his family, you're thinking your family is more backward than backward times 100 backward, yes? You're coming to tell me about the community, first focus at home. Look at your daughter, look at your son, look at your wife, before you come and tell the community about the way they should move forward. Islam didn't begin with tabligh for the community. Islam began where? Rasulullah was to first bring tabligh to his home. When you bring tabligh to the household, at the beginning you sort out your own house, then you go and build the community. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the beginning didn't tell him, go and tell the whole community. No. At the beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ. Ashira is who? Ashira, let's say, is your family, your tribe, your kinsmen. First, O Muhammad, go and tell them. So who was with him? Imam Ali was of the earliest Muslims. So he told him, O son of Abu Talib, let us prepare a meal. We're going to invite all of our kinsmen. I'm now going to have to openly tell them. Before, he wasn't openly telling them. And that's why it's interesting when people attack the school of Ahl al-Bayt, they say, you people are in taqiyya, you don't tell us your real beliefs. Habibi, Rasulullah didn't tell many his real beliefs for 3 years. So you found what? So you found that he told him, at the beginning, we had to what? At the beginning, we had to be silent. Now, we come out. He said, who do you want us to invite? He said, invite everybody in our clan. Abu Lahab, bring him. Bring, for example, your father. Bring Abbas. Bring everybody within the clan. I'm going to announce to them about the religion of Islam. Imam Ali prepared that meal. Abu Lahab, before he got there, he had known. He had known that, you know what? I know Muhammad's been spreading this idea of Islam. And I think today is when he wants to announce it. So let's see what's going to happen. About 46 members of the clan came together. Some narrations mention between 30 and 46. They all came together, and in those days, for you to have a meal that grand was great, by the way. You know, it was scarce in those days for you to have such a sumptuous meal. I remember even Fatima Zahra, salawatullah wa salamu alayha, Allahumma salli within her khutbah, she talks about the fact that these people were really living off the bits and pieces in Mecca at the time. It was either a clear upper class or a clear lower class. There was no middle class establishment over there. So when he brought this meal, all of them were coming, and Rasulullah wanted to highlight a moral aspect here, which was what? There is no harm you organizing dinners to bring non-Muslims towards the religion of Islam. No harm. Why? Because Rasulullah, what's he showing? Don't just bring a non-Muslim and talk about Islam without being hospitable. For is nothing more beautiful to the eyes of Allah than a hospitable human being. Correct or no? A person who's hospitable has welcomed them with a meal. Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam never used to want to eat a meal without a guest being in the house. And that's why even when the angels came to tell him about Nabi Lut, yes, when they came to tell him about Sodom and Gomorrah, first he told the angels, come and eat a roasted calf with me. And then they told him, verily we are angels from your Lord. Rasulullah wanted to highlight the Muslims when they invite or make any invitation, invite the non-Muslim. Don't be worried. Don't only invite from your own religion. Let there be dialogue. Let there be open discussion. There is nothing to fear. In the same way, I began Islam by having a banquet dinner. Abu Lahab was not a Muslim. Others weren't Muslims. But they came. They heard the message. If they want to accept, they can accept. Our role today in the Western world should be similar to that. The way our religion began with banquet dinners, we should have them as well. We should be looking to have dialogue with non-Muslims. Invite them towards the religion of Islam. If they accept, they accept. And if they don't accept, at least let's build cordial relations amongst one another. So when the message began, Rasulullah came. Ali ibn Abi Talib had prepared all the food. All of them came. Rasulullah was waiting for that moment for him to say something. Abu Lahab is a politician of politicians, correct? And all great politicians dominate banquet dinners. So what happens is, Abu Lahab was in the middle. While Abu Lahab was in the middle of that, what did he do? He began to start speaking loudly. Every time Rasulullah wants to say something, he speaks loudly. Every time Rasulullah says something, he tries to change the topic, yes? Every time Rasulullah says something, he starts to joke around. So then as soon as Rasulullah wanted to say something, Abu Lahab said, you know what? This meal has been now going on for too long. Let us move. It is time for us to rise. Ali ibn Abi Talib saw Rasulullah. He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, what do we do now? He said, invite all of them again to the same banquet tomorrow. Let all of them come again. No one's going to reject 2 dinners in a row, correct or no? They're all going to come back. Abu Lahab knows there's going to be an announcement made. That's the fear he has in the back of his mind. So what did Abu Lahab do? Abu Lahab decided again, the second time, but he was going to be a bit louder in what he says. He was going to be a bit louder by saying that I know Muhammad has something to say. He began to tell some of the people around him, don't listen to him. He's a renegade. He's my nephew, but he's rebellious. Do not take any of what he has to say. And the narrations mention that he began to spread this amongst the people. Rasulullah knew that he began to spread this. So Rasulullah knew that now that my uncle is saying this, I have to speak. I'm not going to be disrespectful to my uncle. Rather, I'm going to try and open up about the religion of Islam. He sat down. He said, oh my dear kinsmen and sons of Abdul Muttalib. Yes? He said to them that I come with you with a message. I come to you with a message, the likes of which no one would have ever given you before, and the benefit of which you would never have received the like of before. He said to them, I tell you that there is only one God, and that there are no partners to this God, and that there's a day of reckoning, a day of judgment, when all of us will be questioned about everything that we've done. O sons of Abdul Muttalib, my Lord has informed me and revealed to me to warn you. For he has said, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ. Warn your nearest relatives. So I come to you and I ask you, which ones of you will support me in my mission? Which ones of you will carry the burden of this mission with me? Which ones of you will be alongside me? O sons of Abdul Muttalib, whoever of you will support me will be my Khalifa and my Wasi and my Wazir after me. Yes? Clear. This is a huge thing to give them, correct or no? All of them were listening. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib on that day, how old was he? 13 years of age, yes? Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib on that day, he looked around. Nobody stood up. Nobody said, Ya Rasulullah. Nobody said, O Prophet of God. All of them were silent. Why? Some were silent because they didn't want to disrespect Rasulullah. In which way? Yes, we might not believe in his religion, but he is Sadiq and he is Ameen. Muhammad has never lied. Never in his life. So out of respect for him, we will not speak in an ill manner. Then Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib decided, you know what, I'll stand up. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I accept you as my prophet. And I will be there to support you. I will be there to carry the burden with you. I'll be there to be alongside you. Rasulullah said, sit down, Ali. Why? He wants to first put the hujjah on everyone there. That I have said this and I'll repeat it again. Which ones of you want to take this position and believe in me? They will be the Khalifa and the Wasi and the Wazir after me. Yes? It's not just Ghadir when Ali was known. Then number 2, Imam Ali said, Ya Rasulullah, I stand up. It is me. I accept you. Again, he said, Ali, sit down. On the 3rd time, when he asked, when no one stood, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, when he then stood again, Rasulullah said, this is my brother and my wasi and the Khalifa after me. Yes? This is my brother, my wasi and the Khalifa after me. But then he added a line, and I think the line that he adds is important. Why? Because someone turns around and says what? He says, this doesn't prove imamah. I say, what do you mean? He says, imamah, he would make it clear that he has functions of an imam. All this says is maybe, for example, that he is the Khalifa of Bani Hashim. That Bani Hashim, their leader, is going to be Ali ibn Abi Talib. No, not at all. Not at all is proved in two ways. The first way is after he said, he is my brother and the Khalifa and the wasi after me. After that, what did he say? He will be fought protecting the interpretation of the Quran like I was fought protecting the revelation of the Quran. Imamat is what? The difference between nubuwwah and imamah. Nubuwwah is the protection of the revelation. Imamah is the protection of the interpretation of the revelation. Yes? When Rasulullah said, he didn't say, Inna hada akhi wa wasiyi wa waziri, and stop there. He said he will be fought in the protection of the tafsir of the Quran, like in the ta'weel of the Quran, like I was fought in the protection of the tanzeel of the Quran. Therefore, he is really showing that the duty of Ali is not just a Khalifa. He is an Imam for the people in protecting the Quran. And number two, the highest sign that Ali was designated as authority was what? Abu Lahab scoffed at what happened. Abu Lahab turned around to Abu Talib. He said, oh Abu Talib, it looks like Ali is going to be your authority over you one day. Yes? Abu Lahab, if he felt that Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was not given a position of authority, would not mock Abu Talib at that moment. Abu Lahab looked at Abu Talib. He said, Abu Talib, the 13-year-old is going to be on authority over you one day. In other words, that was unanimous on that occasion. That Rasulullah, for the first time, after he had brought up Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, after Imam Ali used to come with him to the Ghar of Hira, after Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib used to see what he saw, hear what he heard, this was the first time where Rasulullah made it clear that Ali is my wasi, my Khalifa, and my wazir after me. Is this in all the books of our brothers and in our books? Yes, it is. But you know what's happened? I find something very interesting when I look at books of Islamic literature. You know what's happened in the last 20, 30 years? Lots of deletions. Sahih al-Bukhari used to be this big. For some reason now it's abridged and abridged and abridged, and I don't know what's left of the Sahih al-Bukhari anymore. Muslim, Tabari, Ibn Kuthar, Ibn Athir. You see, if you compare the editions from the early 20th century to the early 21st century, so many pages are missing. Ironically, on the merits of Ali ibn Abi Talib. We thought Bani Umayyah despised Ali, correct? We thought Bani Abbas despised Ali. We thought the Zubayrs despised Ali. Oh Allah, the haters of Ali still live in the world today and still claim that they love him when they're deleting his merits every day. And I'll give you two proofs. Ibn Kuthar, in his tafsir, the famous tafsir, in the Zahiri library in Damascus, his tafsir was there. Under the ayah, Surah 26, verse 214, in the first edition, it was written down, this ayah was revealed as an ayah in honor of Ali ibn Abi Talib. That Rasulullah invited his nearest kin when he asked, whoever accepts me will be the Khalifa and the wasi after me. After it, in the first edition, it's written down, only Ali stood up. So Rasulullah said, Inna hada akhi wa waziri wa wasi. Yes? Second edition, published later, the whole of the line about Ali ibn Abi Talib is deleted. Habibi, Ali ibn Abi Talib, what is he, a ghost to you? Ali ibn Abi Talib is a monster to you? What's Ali ibn Abi Talib to you? What's Ali ibn Abi Talib done wrong to you? When you delete these sections in a library in Damascus, why? Why? Because you fear the world will know who Ali ibn Abi Talib is? And when they know who Ali ibn Abi Talib is, you fear that others will lose their positions and their rank? Why not look for haqq? I tell many people in the school of Ahl al-Bayt, don't say I've become a Shi'i, I've become a Sunni, I've become whatever. Say I've become someone who's looking for truth and found the truth. When you look for haqq, you'll find it. Ibn Kuthar in tafsir, first edition, it says, this proves Ali ibn Abi Talib is the wasi of Rasulullah from the age of 13. In the second edition, deleted. Let me give you another example. the famous historian Muhammad Hussein Haykal. Many of you would have heard of him, yes? There's Muhammad Hassanin Haykal and there's Muhammad Hussein Haykal. He has a book called The Life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In that book on the life of the Holy Prophet, yes? In the book on the life of the Holy Prophet, he's written down on this incident, wallah, is written down that this incident was revealed in honor of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Of the many ayahs in the Quran, Allah revealed in his honor, yes? He says at the end of the incident, Rasulullah said, هذا أخي ووصي ووزيري, yes? يقاتل على تأويل القرآن كما أقاتل على تنزيله. He continues with the whole discussion. That's in the first edition. I looked for the second edition, I found it. 37 pages deleted from the second edition on the merits of Ali ibn Abi Talib. 37 pages deleted. Why? Why the removal of these pages? Tabari, famous tariq, correct or no? And the tafsir on this incident, the original copies, you'll find them in Cairo, you'll find them in Hyderabad. You know, in Hyderabad, there used to be a fantastic printing press in Hyderabad. Hyderabad and Lucknow produced some of the best literature in the history of this religion. You find in the original Tabari, it's written down that the narrator writes down that we were at Da'wat al-Ashira, and what happened? Ali ibn Abi Talib was clearly chosen by Rasulullah. Later on in the other editions, you know what's written down? It's written down, and something was said to Ali ibn Abi Talib, but I can't remember it. Habibi, you are ready to face Allah on the day of judgment or no? إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزلنا من البينات والهدى من بعد ما بيناه للناس في الكتاب أولئك يلعنهم الله. Those who conceal what we have revealed of the truth after we made it clear, la'na goes on those people. Quran says that la'na goes on those who conceal. This is a merit to Ali ibn Abi Talib. No, forget a merit to Ali ibn Abi Talib. It's a form of guidance for us as Muslims. That Rasulullah would never leave us without making clear who his wasi is. Would he? Would Rasulullah leave the Muslim Ummah without telling them 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, Ali ibn Abi Talib is my wasi, Ali ibn Abi Talib is my wazir, Ali ibn Abi Talib is my khalifa, Ali minni wa ana min Ali, Ali ma'al haq wa ana min... All of these, and at the end a Muslim comes in the 20th century and deletes them? Why the deletion? Therefore you found that this ayah, without a doubt, was a proof that Ali ibn Abi Talib from a young age, not only at Ghadir, because if I stick to Ghadir, Ghadir has this debate and that debate and this discussion, that discussion. Habibi, way before Ghadir. Ghadir was icing on a cake that was already cooked, correct or no? Already, Ali ibn Abi Talib was chosen. The question is that Da'wat al-Ashira, when it occurred, what happened? Two things happened. The first thing that happened was that Rasulullah now came out to the public of Mecca. He said to the people of Mecca, yes? He said to them, have I ever lied to you? They said, no, O Muhammad. Am I a Sadiq? Yes. Am I Amin? Yes. If I told you there was an army behind that mountain, would you believe me? They said, yes. He said, verily, then I have come to tell you that there is no God but God, and I am the messenger of God. And that these idols are of no benefit and no harm to you. All of you who come on this path, Allah will save you on the day of judgment. Then he said, the woman and the man are equal, and the black and the white are equal, and the slave and the master are all equal. The only thing that differentiates all of you is taqwa. I'm sure there's a group who are inspired, but there's a group who hate what he said, correct or no? When he first said that, the group who were inspired, who were they? The black slaves were inspired. Why? Someone like Bilal al-Habashi, when he heard this, he used to tend for Umayyah. Bilal al-Habashi was a slave of Umayyah. Bilal heard that the Prophet Muhammad has come out with such words. He knew the Prophet Muhammad was a man of sidq, was a man of aman, a man of trustworthiness and truthfulness. Bilal turned around and he began to visit the Prophet Muhammad. He said to him, is it true that you say the black and the white are equal? Yes. The Arab and the non-Arab are equal? Yes. The slave and the master are equal? Yes. He said, I swear there is no God but God, and Muhammad is the messenger of God, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli. He came towards the religion of Islam. And who else came towards the religion of Islam? Many of the women began to join, yes? Many women began to join. Why? Because suddenly a religion has come, which is said in one of its first surahs, Surah Al-Takwir. is one of the first surahs in the Quran, yes? إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ وَإِذَا النُّجُومُ انْكَدَرَتْ. Yes, one of the first surahs. The Quran and that surah, Rasulullah came. What did he say? He said, وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. The female baby on the day of judgment will say, why have you buried me alive? When the women of Arabia heard this, many of them were like, wow, Muhammad, Ali, Khadija, they're only a few in number, but the morals of what they say make sense to our mind. Sumayya, mother of Ammar bin Yasir, joined the religion of Islam. Zunaira joined the religion of Islam. Lubna, daughter of Habib, joined the religion of Islam. Unais joined the religion of Islam. Woman after woman left their families. Why? The families were oppressing them. They came towards the religion of Islam. When they came, all of these started joining the religion slowly. Suddenly, the aristocrats of Arabia were angered. Of the aristocrats of Arabia who was angered, who was the first of them? The first of them who was angered was whom? Was Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab could not believe this. Muhammad, my nephew, thinks he can change the ways of the people, thinks he can stop people from worshipping the idols. Abu Lahab began a vicious attack on Rasulullah. And do you know who defended Rasulullah from this vicious attack? Ali ibn Abi Talib and a young girl called Fatima al-Zahra, salawatullah wa salamu alayha. Yes? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Fatima al-Zahra was how old at the time? 5 years of age. Abu Lahab wanted to hurt Rasulullah now that Rasulullah began to spread his message. Abu Lahab was angered. My two nephews, Muhammad, son of Abdullah, Ali, son of Abu Talib, my brother's sons, think they can change the aristocracy? Never! So him and his wife. Who was his wife? Jamil, sister of Abu Sufyan. Look at the combination. There's a la'na from every angle there. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let's have a second salawat to make it clear that none of Abu Sufyan and none of Abu Lahab were victorious at the end. Which religion calls Abu Sufyan Muslim and Abu Talib Kafir? This is the rubbish we have. Anyway, Jamil, sister of who? Sister of Abu Sufyan, correct? Wife of Abu Lahab. Do you know Jamil, how powerful she was? She was the head of the Arabian parliament. You think someone who's related to Abu Sufyan and Abu Lahab, she must be a monster, yes? She was the head of the Arabian parliament. First thing she did, Quran mentions it beautifully. You know, the wording in Surah Masad is phenomenal. Tabbat yada abi lahab wa tab. Ma aghna anhu maluhu wa ma kasab. Sayasla naran dhata lahab. What's his name? Abu Lahab, but he will eventually taste the flaming fire. They used to call him Abu Lahab because he has flaming red cheeks. Allah put the pun on it to say, he'll feel my flames later on. The Arabic of the Quran is something else. Sayasla naran, that Lahab. Wamra'atuhu is what? Hammalat al-Hatab. Hammalat al-Hatab is double meaning. What's the double meaning? Hammalat al-Hatab, she used to carry the wood fire, put it outside Rasulullah's house. So when he walks, he trips over the wood fire. Covered with thorns, yes? Fatima al-Zahra, when he would trip over, would come and remove the wounds from his face. She'd be the one with her hands remove the thorns from the ground. 5 years old, she would remove. Ali ibn Abi Talib would remove the rest of the thorns, the rest of the wood. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also called her Hammalat al-Hatab because the lowest job in Arabia was the carrier of the wood. So he said to her, and his wife is truly a carrier of wood, yes? Nothing more than that. That Jamil puts the firewood, puts the thorns. Fatima, when Rasulullah says Fatima is the mother of her father, yes? She is the one who would come and carry the wood. The wood would burn her hand. When Rasulullah would go and pray, Abu Lahab would ask Abu Jahl, go and throw feces on Muhammad's face in sujood. The Quran would say, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يَنْهَى عَبْدًا إِذَا صَلَّى. Have you seen the one who stops our servant, hurts our servant in his salah? Ali ibn Abi Talib would come and clean the face of Rasulullah from the feces of the camel on his face. Yes? Until Jamil flipped. Jamil, how did she flip? Jamil decided what? Jamil decided she was sitting in the parliament. Abu Talib cleverly had a representative in the parliament. The parliament was called Dar al-Nadwa. Jamil in the parliament, she said, listen, I want Muhammad dead, and I want the son of Abu Talib dead. Yes, I want both of them gone. These are the nemesis in this religion. I want them finished. Now Ammar, son of Yasir, Abu Dhar from Bani Ghafar, Mus'ab bin Umar, think that they are men in my nation. I want all of them finished. So you know what happened? So she decided, she said, listen, I want Muhammad to die. They said to her, how will we kill him? She said, Muhammad still thinks that his uncle might become a Muslim one day. He comes to visit him every week to try and convince him that Islam is the way forward. Subhanallah. Some of us, our uncles do one thing wrong to us, or our aunties or our cousins, we never say salam to them again. Correct or no? Rasulullah's uncle non-stop attacks him. He doesn't stop going to visit because of Salat al-Rahim. It's a lesson for all of us. Those of us who've made excuses why we don't talk to our sisters or our brothers. Because what? Because they hurt me, they insulted me. Habibi, you're not greater than Rasulullah. Rasulullah was insulted by a man who put wood, fire, thorns, and he still went to his house to say Salamu Alaikum. Yes? She said he comes to visit his uncle. Said, but the problem is, when he comes to see his uncle won't allow any of us to kill him. Said, why? Said, because his uncle says, I'm an Arab, and there is no way that you can kill Muhammad in my house. It's against Arabian culture. You want to kill my nephew? You kill him outside. So she said, so you know what I'll do? I'll get his uncle drunk. His uncle will be so drunk from alcohol, he'll fall. When he falls, he won't know Muhammad's there. You go and stab him and kill him. Abu Talib's rep was in that place. When Abu Talib's rep was in that place, Abu Talib's rep went to who? Abu Talib's rep went to Rasulullah, or went to Abu Talib. He said to him, we have an issue. He said, what? He said, next week they're going to come and kill Muhammad. He said, what do you mean? He said, Muhammad goes to visit your brother every week? He said, yes, he does. He goes to visit his uncle to try and bring him to Islam. He said, does he really believe he'll come to Islam? He said, at the end of the day, he's his uncle. Why not keep trying? Maybe one day he'll change. So he said, okay, so what are they going to do? He said, they're going to get Abu Talib drunk, and they're going to make sure that they're going to get Abu Lahab drunk, and they're going to make sure that Abu Lahab is intoxicated. Then they're going to stab Muhammad and go. Abu Talib had a young son, Ali, you know him. He said, Ali, come here. He said, yes. He said, next week this is going to happen. This is what you do. Ali looked at his dad. He said, very well, leave it with me. The following week, Rasulullah had gone to visit Abu Lahab. When he went to visit Abu Lahab, he entered. Abu Lahab was there, but clearly they had given Abu Lahab so much to drink that Abu Lahab was virtually out, and he fell on the ground. When he fell on the ground, what happened? All of a sudden, there was an ambush of them coming in. Ali ibn Abi Talib at that moment realized that there's an ambush coming in. He came to the door. They had closed the door. Ali ibn Abi Talib, if a door's closed, he has a habit. He throws it open. I'm sure you know other moments. He took the door as a 13, 14, 15-year-old. He took the door, threw it away, entered, and he said, all of you against me. None touches my cousin. Then he turned around towards Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab was on the ground. He said, oh my uncle, in the name of Salat al-Rahim, because Abu Lahab is his uncle as well. He said, oh my uncle, in the name of Salat al-Rahim, stand up and protect Muhammad. Abu Lahab so drunk, but when he heard the word Salat al-Rahim, as an Arab, he knew that he had to stand up, because in Arabian culture, you don't allow your family to be killed in front of you, yes? Abu Lahab stood up, fell, until he said, in the name of Salat al-Rahim, all of you remove yourself from Muhammad. And they all removed. And Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib stood alongside him. He stood alongside him, he protected Rasulullah. The others of those companions in that period protected the Prophet. Those early days were the hardest days. They would come every day and they take the new companions of Rasulullah. Ammar bin Yasir, they took him. His father Yasir took him. Sumayya took. And do you know who was torturing these new Muslims? Abu Jahl and Umar ibn al-Khattab. I'm talking history here. I don't come here to speak emotion. I speak history. Umar ibn al-Khattab is a Makhzumi. Abu Jahl is a Makhzumi. Ammar, his mother Sumayya and father Yasir, they're all Makhzumis. Others, Zunaira, Lubna, they were all brought into certain areas. You've become Muslims? Yes. He'd get his spear and stab them in the middle of the stomach. Is he equal, the one brought up in the cradle of revelation, with the one who was a pagan stabbing woman? And then afterwards, everyone's made equal. The one born in purity and the one who in early days of Islam is stabbing anyone who's a new Muslim. He stabs Zunaira, Lubna, Sumayya, mother of Ammar, stabbed. You find, for example, Yasir, stabbed. Ammar, tortured. They wanted to inflict on them the most severe punishment. One after another wanted to inflict, until Rasulullah told on one side, Ja'far, son of Abu Talib, he said to him, Ja'far, come here. He said, what is it? He said, we are a young religion and slowly they're killing us. Slowly we're dying out. Go to Abyssinia. There is a priest who's a humble human being. Go and live there. Go and try and protect Islam in Africa. Ja'far went with Asma bint Umays, the first of the couple who went. They had first child in Africa. Who was whom? Abdullah, the son of Ja'far, who eventually married Sayyidah Zainab. Yes? Therefore, some of the companions were killed. Others had to go to Africa. They went to live in Ethiopia. Then there was a third group of them. The Arabians made a decision. Muhammad, son of Abdullah, Ali, son of Abu Talib, think they can all get away with spreading this religion? No way. Sanctions now on all of them. Bani Hashim and their supporters were to have sanctions around them. First month, first day, 7th year of Islam. Yes? In the 7th year of Islam, on the first month, the first day, they made an announcement. Near the Kaaba, nobody is allowed to marry any of the Muslims. Nobody is allowed to take from their daughters or from their sons. Nobody is allowed to trade commodities or any goods with them. And all of them are to be surrounded in the valley of Abu Talib. Those of you who've been to Hajj, you've seen Masjid al-Haram. Outside Masjid al-Haram, you've seen there's this big palace. Yes, when you're sitting in Hajj, you see this palace outside. That is the Mount of Abu Qubais. Behind it is the Sha'b of Abu Talib. That's where they were all taken. They were surrounded. Rasulullah, Imam Ali, Fatima al-Zahra, Khadija, Abu Talib, subhanallah, from those days. Surrounded. Nobody is allowed to look after them. No one's allowed to trade with them. Khadija and Ali and Abu Talib. You know what Abu Talib would do? He says to Fatima, I said, where is Ali? He said, he's here. He said, let him sleep in the bed of Muhammad. I would rather see Ali dead and Muhammad alive. That's a kafir? That's a kafir? I would rather see Ali dead and Muhammad alive. Rasulullah, his bed would change for 2.5 years, 3 years in those economic sanctions. Fatima al-Zahra would go and look after her mother Khadija. Fatima al-Zahra was 7 at the time. Khadija would look after the Muslims. There were non-Muslims who tried to help Bani Hashim. You had Abu al-Bukhtari, Hakim bin Huzam, the nephew of Khadija. They were people, once religious, they would smuggle food into the Sha'b of Abu Talib. Every once in a while, in the middle of the night, they'd smuggle food. Here, take some bread. Here, take some grain. Here, take some water. Don't worry, we'll keep giving you. They may be non-Muslims, but I tell you, sometimes a non-Muslim helps Islam more than the Muslim helps Islam. They were coming. They were giving food secretly. Ali ibn Abi Talib wasn't just about secret. Ali ibn Abi Talib said, give me some money. I'm going into Mecca. If any of them want to fight me, 16 years worth of bravery is ready to face all of them. Let them come. He would leave the Sha'b of Abu Talib and he would go into Mecca. He used to have 1 gold coin. Khadija, every bit of her money that she gave for Islam, she spent in those 3 years. That's why when Fadak was given to Bibi, they asked Rasulullah why. He said, Allah wants to honor what her mom gave to Islam. Every penny she would give Ali. Ali would take a gold coin. He'd leave the Sha'b of Abu Talib. He'd go into town. When he'd go into town, you know what he'd do? He'd go into town and he'd get some water and he'd walk around. Who of you wants to fight me? Any of you? My name is Ali, son of Abu Talib. Fight me. This comes back to haunt him later. Comes back to haunt you. Because people don't forget. And they'll take it out on your children one day too. So what happens was, he would come back, he'd give water to the poor ones, to the orphans. He'd give them all water. But Rasulullah was confident they'd come out. Why? They had trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes? They were a small number, but they had trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I tell you something and I repeat, and I'm not going to try and be controversial when I say this. There are certain people Islam praised later on. I defy anyone to show me where were they in the Sha'b of Abu Talib's 3 years. Where were they? I can give you the names of who was in the valley of Abu Talib. Ali, Khadija, all of these were there. Yes? Where are they? 3 years of sanctions. Where are they? If you claim you were there in the hardest period of Islam, I don't see your names there. Because everyone looks for their mushrik friends when their mushrik friends become useful. But that's a historical issue I don't want to bring on Mimbar because it will cause too much difficulty. Yes? Anyone who wants to read the books are clear. Khadija lost her life over there. In that valley of Abu Talib. In a few nights we remember her shahada, correct? She lost her life. Why? She'd rather see the children eat than she does. And what does she eat? The weeds of the grass. Abu Talib died that year. Khadija died that year. But Rasulullah recognized, while I have Ali, while I have Khadija, while I have Abu Talib, while I have such great companions, I will be victorious. Eventually, the Arabs even themselves realized this torture of 3 years on Bani Hashim. Wallah, this is wrong. This is surely oppression. Some of them spoke out. Some said, these people, we knew them, we grew up with them. This is ridiculous. 3 years, your Kingdom live on leaves and plants with no water. So some of them came, let's go and see the covenant we made on the Kaaba. They had made a covenant on the Kaaba that no one would trade. They went to the covenant. Subhanallah, the whole covenant was eaten except Bismika Allahumma. The whole covenant was eaten by the ants, yes? Except the part on the covenant which said, Bismika Allahumma. Some of them said this must be a sign. They allowed the Bani Hashim to become free from that period. 3 years of intense torture. 3 years of intense hardship. But I tell you one thing. While Ali and Fatima were a backbone to Rasulullah knew he could come out. And while Rasulullah had great companions like those companions with him in the Sha'b of Abu Talib, he knew that he would be victorious. No doubt, because every prophet, every imam needs companions who are loyal to him. Correct or no? He needs companions who in the face of hardship, when there's no food to eat, there's no water to drink, they're ready to say, we are here for you. We will stand with you. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, you look at his companions, Malik al-Ashtar, for example. You look at Muhammad bin Abu Bakr. You look at Muhammad son of Ja'far al-Tayyar. They were loyal to Imam Ali. In the worst times, the most difficult times, did they let go? No. If we are facing oppression, Ali is our leader, we'll give our life to Ali ibn Abi Talib. The way he gave his life to Rasulullah in the valley of Abu Talib. You find Imam al-Hassan, look at his companions, Hujr bin Adi, Kumayl bin Ziyad, the likes of Amr bin Hamaq al-Khuza'i, gave their life to the Imam. In the face of hardship, difficulties, sanctions, never did they leave an Imam alone. But wallah, there are no companions like the companions of Abu Abdullah, yes? Each of these companions, Rasulullah's companions, they were with him in the valley. When they had no water to drink, did they let him down? No, they did not. Ali ibn Abi Talib, when they had no food to eat in battles, they remained loyal. Imam al-Hassan, they remained loyal. Abu Abdullah's companions went days without water, yes? And they'd look round. Some would look at their children on the ground thirsty. Others would look at their children not even making any noises because of a lack of water. Abu Abdullah looks at Rabah. She says, Abu Abdullah, this 6-month-old, I can't even hear him anymore, yes? In other words, each of these companions, all of them would look at their wives and say, one would say to his wife, remain patient, Jannah awaits us. In the same way they said with Sha'b of Abu Talib, the same way at Karbala. Wahab would say to his wife, she would say to him, but Wahab, we've just got married. He'd say to her, be patient, for Fatima al-Zahra will provide us shafa'ah on the day of judgment, yes? But one person's wife in particular, she's the one who told him, no, don't tell me to remain patient. You go out and serve the son of Fatima al-Zahra. Who? Zuhair ibn al-Qayn's wife, Daylam, yes? Because when she saw Zuhair wavering, she said, what's wrong with you? You're not certain of what you want to do? He said to her, no, I am certain. She said, so why don't you go? The son of Fatima calls you and you sit next to me. The tears began to overflow from the eyes of Zuhair ibn al-Qayn. And I tell you, he fought such a battle. In my opinion, the most killed on the 10th of Muharram from the sword of Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, yes?
He fought, and the only man, when he fell on the 10th of Muharram, Imam al-Hussein called out, Ya Allah, raise his killers as pigs on the day of judgment. Do not raise them as human beings. They don't deserve to be called human beings. They stabbed his body so many times when he lay on the ground. And that's why one narration tells us, wallah, this narration, one of the Maraji' fainted when he heard this narration. This narration really hurts the heart. In Daylam, on the night of the 11th of Muharram, these ladies, Zainab was sleeping, Rabab was crying, Layla was sitting alone. They were all sitting next to each other, but most of them tried to go to sleep. Daylam stood up. All of a sudden, she looked at her servant. She said, oh my servant, I beg you, come next to me. She said, what is it? She said, here's a piece of cloth for you. The servant said, what do you want me to do with it? She said to her, I want you to go out on the plains of Karbala, look for my husband Zuhair's body. She said to her, why? She said, because my husband's body is lying there with no kafan. Use this shroud as a kafan for my husband's body. So the servant walked out. A few moments later, the servant came back. Daylam looked at her, the tears trickling from her eyes. She said to her, did you cover my husband's body? She said to her, no, I'm sorry, I didn't. She said to her, why? She said, as I was approaching the body of Zuhair, I saw the holy body of Abu Abdullah lying without a kafan on it. I thought to myself, how can I cover the body of Zuhair while the body of Abu Abdullah lies without a shroud? How can I cover the body of Zuhair while the son of Fatima al-Zahra's body is covered with arrows? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Ya Allah, raise us with Muhammad and al-Muhammad. Ya Allah, allow us to honor the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allow us to be amongst those who receive the shafa'ah of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Ya Allah, allow us to use da'wat al-Ashira in our discussions as to the greatness of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ya Allah, allow us to be amongst those who follow the message of the Prophet in this world and receive his shafa'ah in the hereafter. Unite the Muslim Ummah under the banner of Muhammad and al-Muhammad, and remove the oppression from around the Muslim world, especially the oppression being faced by our brothers in Iraq today. Ya Allah, remove all the oppression that they face and allow them to come out peaceful and successful with peace and prosperity in their future. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Surah Al-Fatiha, but before it the loudest of your salawat.